welcome to the Pulse Collective podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the PCP, otherwise known as the Pulse Collective podcast. I'm your host, Shahrukh Ansari. This is the show where we sit down with top business leaders and entrepreneurs to uncover their journeys, lessons, and their vision for the future of their business and industry as a whole. For those of you that are just watching or even listening audibly, we are Pulse Collective. We're a growth partner for businesses all across the country, helping them multiply their revenue and unlock their overall potential through AI-powered systems. If you're looking for proven ways and have tried the entire haystack with other agencies, you're looking to attract more clients, just boost your overall retention, you're in the right place. Drop us a message or a comment down below, and I'll have one of our consultants reach out to you to see if it's potentially a good fit that we can help you out. Now, today I'm really excited because I actually have Jim Nance, who is the co-founder and owner over at Endless Vitality. Endless Vitality is a TRT clinic that's based out of Arizona that's offering hormone optimization focused services and also telemedicine options as well. Jim has built his career as an entrepreneur, and today I'm really excited because he's actually helping to grow a modern wellness clinic in a market that's getting a lot more saturated and competitive, and you need to have a lot of boxes checked off to really succeed in. So I'm really excited to get into what's really working for you, Jim, and I wanted to welcome you to the show. Thanks for being here. Can you kick us off by just sharing a bit about your background and what Endless Vitality is all about?
So, like you said, I'm an entrepreneur. I've owned multiple small businesses, been in quite a few different spaces. I was a mortgage banker for 25 years. I've got a business degree in finance from Indiana University. We started Endless Vitality about 8 years ago, post a couple of things happening, which the first was my business partner came down with prostate cancer. So he discovered that he had an inflamed prostate and his PSA was high through a blood test similar to what we do here at our clinic. So we were all going to another clinic getting hormone replacement therapy, getting testosterone, and we found out one of my best friends possibly could be dying of prostate cancer, right? But that test, in essence, saved his life because that allowed him to get in front of it. So the thing with prostate cancer is, as it is in the prostate, if it doesn't leave the walls of the prostate, it doesn't hurt you really. But as soon as it breaks through the walls of the prostate, hits your bloodstream, then you're in rough shape. So that's kind of the weird thing about when Biden came out and said he had prostate cancer. It's like it's a PSA test. It's a $9 lab. You probably should have had that done. So I thought that was kind of odd, but that kind of pushed us. And then he sold a business, which we came together and we saw the benefits of testosterone, but also had the underlying idea that let's go out and see who else might be in this position who has prostate cancer and doesn't know it, so we could catch that and possibly help our friends and family and whomever we crossed our path to identify these problems that, again, once you get in front of it, it's easy to fix. But if you let it fester, it can cost you your life. So in the turn of going out and testing people, we found, maybe 10 to 15 people who had elevated PSAs who ended up having prostate cancer. So we like to think we possibly saved their life. And that was kind of like the foundation of why we got started, along with coupling the benefits of optimizing your hormones. Like with testosterone, it's just, it's a simple blood test. So we send people to a lab, they get blood work done. Doc goes over those labs via telehealth. And then people come in the clinic, and after their plan of care has been put in the system, typically within 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes the next day, you're sleeping better, your brain works better, you're able to maintain and build muscle mass, libido goes up, and you're replicating your hormone panels of your 28-year-old self or 25-year-old self whenever it was optimized based on your own physiology. But so we got into the space and built a business with a doctor that in doing mortgages is a little bit different. So, you might get 2 or 3 repeat clients who come back and buy a house and they want a loan again. But from the business side of it, with hormone replacement therapy, is once you're on testosterone, people don't leave because it's a sticky product. You feel so much better. So now we've grown from ground zero, no patients, just me, my partner, and a doctor figuring it out. Reverse engineered a company that has now over, almost 550 active patients. And then what we found out though is that's a very limited segment of the population. So you get, now granted, we do have some younger guys coming in now which is pretty incredible. You got 21-year-old kids who have almost absolutely no testosterone.
Wow.
Which, you don't really want to put somebody on a synthetic that young. So we have an alternate protocol for those guys. So if you can use things like HCG and clomiphene, which act to spark luteinizing hormones, or telling your pituitary to signal to your testes to make more, or ovaries with women to produce more testosterone. And that allows them to push their levels up without being on a synthetic, because there's like it's like a negative feedback loop. So
Yeah.
when I take testosterone, my body doesn't produce as much because it's a factory and you have sensors. So your sensors go off and say, hey, my shelves are full. We don't need to push the factory any further. We've got too much or more than what we anticipated, so it stops working. So then you'll see guys testes could possibly shrink, atrophy, and that's when you incorporate, in a normal testosterone protocol, you incorporate HCG, which again helps your body just produce more testosterone naturally. So what happens over time is your testosterone level falls, your estrogen levels go up. So we morph into women basically, which that's not my thing, Everyone knows the modern day what's going on out there, and I'm not going to get too deep into that, but I personally enjoy being a man. And if anything, I want to enhance my masculinity, not the other way around. So what we do is a lot of guys, we show them how to bring their estrogen levels down, raise their testosterone to rebalance those, and again, you get those benefits. Well, what I was leading into is that it's a very segmented market, and up until recently, women thought it caused cancer. Well, the FDA had came out in the last couple of weeks and said, hey, we were wrong. That does not cause cancer. In fact, it's the best thing a woman can do for their body because it helps with bone density. Again, sleeping, recovery, repair, just their whole body functions considerably better. And men and women both, when your testosterone levels and estrogen for women and men and progesterone for women are in the right order. But then I'd say a year and a half into doing hormone replacement therapy, you had the emergence of GLP-1s like semaglutide, tirzepatide, so generic like Wegovy, Zepbound, these weight loss shots, which unless you've been under a rock the last 5 years, everyone pretty much knows that there's an injection you can take that'll help you lose weight, and these are called GLP-1s. So semaglutide's generic Ozempic. So you see the Ozempic commercials, everyone's kind of chubby and happy, bouncing around and doing their thing, and all of a sudden they're skinnier. But what that does is it causes an insulin release in your bloodstream, so it processes the sugar out of your blood before it turns into fat, and also clicks off a hunger switch. When this product hit the market, we were like, well, this would allow us to open up to a much larger segment of the population because, as you know, America's chubby, right? We got quite a few people who could stand to lose a couple pounds.
I was gonna ask you
really
because
well.
Yeah.
What we found out is those are considered peptides. Have you heard of a peptide before?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with it at all? So a peptide is just an amino acid chain, less than 40, and they act as signaling agents in the body. So a lot of these signaling agents are naturally occurring, some are not, but you can literally tell your body to do things that it's no longer doing that help with mental acuity, help with healing. Like the semaglutide is great because it helps your body produce more insulin to bring down your A1C. So you get a lot of so it started off as a diabetic medication. So people who are at diabetes have high blood sugar or high A1C, so it helps to reduce that. And then, the side effects of diabetes are horrific, But what we found is there's this whole other line of peptides that do pretty incredible stuff. So now we've got, probably 20 peptides we offer, along with the hormone replacement therapy, one of which is the weight loss meds. And what we're kind of figuring out is you can couple these really well to enhance the benefits of each one individually. So I'll give you an example. So there's a peptide called sermorelin. So when you inject it, it spikes your pituitary gland to make more human growth hormone. So what does that do? It's going to help heal, help you sleep better at night, help your joints. So if you have a little tear, it might help it kind of sew that back up naturally so you can stave off surgery. And there's another peptide called BPC-157, and that's something that your gut makes naturally, but when you inject it, it ferrets through your body, finds injury, and creates a process called angiogenesis, or the formation of blood vessels around that injury. But it also, when you use it with the sermorelin, it upregulates the human growth hormone, or makes it stick to the sensors more effectively. So it kind of supercharges the HGH that your body makes with the sermorelin. So you add these two.
That's wild.
And they kind of turbocharge the healing process, and also helps burn fat and put on muscle. So now you can see that now I can cater to a lot more people who want to do different things based on their own personal situation. So what I think probably the biggest difference or the differentiator with my business and others is I personally do a lot of health coaching. So what I found is that if you take, I'll give you, so let's do semaglutide, for example, Ozempic. So what you'll see is people lose weight, but if they don't use the medication properly, after they start losing the fat, they'll start to lose as much muscle as fat. So what you don't want to do is have somebody who's 40% body fat, and you take down that body fat, but you're also pulling down all that muscle. Their body is eating itself. And that muscle mass is what in the future is going to help them keep the weight off. So now you got a bunch of skinny fat people running around because they've taken this Ozempic or tirzepatide, which is the generic version of Mounjaro. And now if you go on a traditional scale, they'll say, oh, I lost 30 pounds. That's great. Well, what if 20 of it's muscle, bro? That's not good. And then when that comes back, it's going to be twice as hard to get that fat back off of you because you don't have the muscle to help metabolize the fat. So what we found is that if you change your daily habits along with the medication, it really produces outcomes that are significantly better than just the medication itself. So I also have a diagnostic scale that does body fat, body comp, tells you how many pounds of muscle, fat, metabolic age, kind of gives you all these readings. So if you come into my office and you say, in your head, I want to lose 30 pounds. Well, what you're really saying is you want to lose 30 pounds of fat. You're not trying to lose 30 pounds of muscle, right? But you get on my scale and you've lost 25 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of fat. Was that a win? No.
Of course.
That's a big L. You took a big loss, man, because now you're in a horrible, because that probably took you 4 years to put on that muscle naturally. And as we age, we naturally atrophy, so we just start to lose muscle over time. I'm 50 years old, so the one benefit of doing what I do is I've learned a lot about physiology and how to put on muscle, keep muscle. So I'm trying to make sure I'm not the old skinny fat guy in the wheelchair getting pushed around by his nephew or whatever. But I'm also helping other people promote these better outcomes by doing things like, okay, let's go back to semaglutide. So if you don't do any type of protein supplementation, you're going to lose your appetite. You're not going to want to eat. So if you're not doing a protein supplementation and resistance training and some type of cardio, you're going to get on a traditional scale, you'll get the numbers you're looking for, but you're really not getting the outcome you're looking for, right? So again, if I lose 30 pounds of muscle and 5 pounds of fat, that doesn't play out very well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what we've learned is how to utilize hormone replacement therapy and peptides, but amplify the results to get better outcomes by changing daily stackable habits. So I spent a lot of time listening to guys like Gary Brecka and all these biohackers, and I kind of taken all that information and gleaned through it, found what I thought to be applicable to my people to do what we do. And then I offer these solutions along with the medical side. And for that reason, we've got 155 star reviews, nothing less online. Because, we really care too, man. I don't want you to come in here and spend money and not get what you're looking for, and not get the benefits. A, it's a horrific business, but B, it just fosters repeat clientele, word of mouth. So we haven't done a ton of outward marketing. We rely a lot on referrals and word of mouth and just reviews to get where we're at. But yeah, man, so we love what we do. We're a licensed outpatient treatment center. We've got doctors in 48 states. So from a business side, it's very scalable. We just have one location. So we ship out all over the country. We can do everything with telehealth. So just fill out a medical history form, get labs done if you need them for the specific product you're looking for, or we just set up the telehealth visit. Doctor makes sure we're not putting you in harm's way by asking the right questions, and then set you up on a protocol. They give us the plan of care here, and then we ship out the meds, and then you get a conversation with myself on what you're trying to accomplish, pair you up with the right peptides, with the doctor's supervision, of course, with his green light, and then we put them on a program, come back, check you out regularly, see where you're at, see what type of adjustments we can make to treatment. And that's why I love this scale I've got in my office, because now if I've told you to go out and you're supposed to be hitting the sauna every morning, working out 3 to 5 days a week, doing cardio, taking supplementation, and you tell me you've been doing all that, you came in here and you put on 7 pounds of fat in the last 6 weeks, I'm going to be like, come on, man. Come on, man. What are we doing here? Right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna knock you down a little bit. Now, if you come in and you got great results, I'm going to give you a big high five, attaboy, you know what I mean? So I think, especially men, we don't get a lot of encouragement.
Yeah.
We just, in general, we feel like I think a lot of guys feel like they're on an island, they're on their own, and their job is just to tough it out, grind through it, and support everyone around them. But we need an advocate, Men need an advocate, and then women do as well. But, how many Men's Cancer Month banners have you seen out there? How many men's little trinkets on your arm you see people walking around? Oh, it's Men's Awareness Day. Ain't nothing like that out there.
Yeah.
Now, I love my wife. I love my daughters. So I'm gonna take care of them too. But I'm here for the fellas a lot of ways, just to say, hey man, there are things we can do to look better, feel better, and to stave off aging. And that's really what my business is all about. We're a performance medication clinic. So I'm here to make you look a little bit better, feel a little bit better. And, I think that a lot of times you think you're depressed. No, man, you're fat. Maybe you wouldn't be so depressed if you didn't look like that, if you didn't feel like that. If you had a little bit more energy, a little bit bigger, higher steps, walking around, I think that a lot of that will wear off, and you might just be surrounded by assholes in your life. That's possible too.
Yeah, I actually think a lot of people don't know that. Like, first of all, typically what happens so for anybody watching, usually I'll ask questions to the guest, but I felt like I wanted you to keep going because you were spitting a lot of game right now that I think a lot of people could. I think it's important to just listen to, like, firsthand. Like, I think for guys, I can definitely attest to this. We live in a little bubble where you're tasked just as being a man to provide, to protect the people around you. That's kind of your foundation as a man. And a lot of times it's not a matter of you wanting somebody to hold your hand. And I think there's a stigma in masculinity that if you have somebody in your corner, like, it makes you less masculine. But I think, especially when I've started talking to more leaders like yourself or just like other execs, they typically have a life coach. They typically have people that hold them accountable. They have people in their corner that if they're striving to get better, they got people pushing them. And if you're not, they're going to check you for it. And I think as men, that's the best thing we can do for each other. So that's actually something I wanted to ask you about, because you said a lot that I wanted to slowly unpack. But the first thing you mentioned was you're one clinic, but at the same time, you have presence with different physicians in almost every state. So people don't have to be in Arizona to essentially like be able to work with you. How does that process work more specifically? So if somebody wants if somebody's in like Texas and they're like, I wanna potentially work with you guys, and like they want to send their blood samples to you, like
Sure.
how does that work from end to end for you
So
to for you to be
what
able
state
to?
are you in?
I'm not in a state. I'm in Canada. I
Okay.
otherwise, yeah, I have residence in New York though. So let's say I'm in New
Okay. So
York.
let's just say you're in Texas, right? So, and I get this. I'd say a third of our patients are out of state. So the first thing I would do is I would text you a link to a medical history form. You can do it right on your cell phone. You just knock that out, press submit, it comes to me. Then I have that conversation to say, hey, what are you interested in? What type of changes do you want to make? What are you looking for from us? So they tell me. And if I think that, and most people do benefit from labs. So we work with LabCorp. LabCorp's all over the country. So we draw a requisition here, email it to you. So it's a PDF on your phone. You just show up at LabCorp. They draw you on the spot. About 5 business days later, they shoot me the results. I give you a copy. Then I schedule your telehealth. So you just have that conversation with the doc. He's got your labs, goes over everything with you. Talks about any type of history of illness or anything that would disqualify you from any of the treatments that we offer. And then after, let's just do testosterone, for example. Let's say you're a 400 total testosterone, which if you Google it, that's going to be on the, they're going to say, oh, that's normal. Well, I don't know about you, but I don't wake up every morning and go, God, I hope it's normal today. That'd be awesome. See how
Yeah,
normal I can be. But at 400, you feel low. Let's just say you just don't feel as good as you do at 800 or 900 total testosterone. Now, we do have a couple bodybuilders we work with, but that's not the forte of our business. We're not really trying to build up muscle men. We're just trying to help people look, again, feel better, stave off aging, etc. So the doc would go through the labs and makes a plan of care and says, hey, based on your 400 total testosterone, we think 140 mg would be your proper dose. And based on your estrogen levels, we think you should take 0.5 milligram of an anastrozole, which is an estrogen blocker. And then if you're out of state, we have the pharmacy ship you the meds directly. And then once you receive them, we have a phone call and say, this is how you prepare it. This is how you inject the medication, if it's an injectable, or some of the things are just pills, tablets, whatever. And then we go over the protocol and say, hey, you take this once a week. It doesn't matter what time of the day, really. And then we come back in 6 weeks, send you to the lab again. So now you've been on it for 6 weeks. Let's see where your levels are now. And after 6 weeks, if you feel great and your labs look great, we'll leave it alone, and then we'll do it again in 6 months. Now, let's say you still don't feel the effects, or you're like, man, I'm still not feeling great. I still can't sleep at night. I still got this brain fog, whatever your symptom was. Maybe we bring it up a little bit. So we take you from 140 mg, now you're at 160 mg. So then 6 weeks later, we'll come back to the labs again, see where that leaves you. And then we keep doing that until you feel a certain way and your labs reflect the way, the levels we want them to do. And then we keep you on that protocol. So the idea being, let's test you up front. Let's continue to test you. Let's get it right. And then once we do and see how that works, then we can talk about other things, because if you came in for one condition, let's just call it mental acuity brain fog, and that might completely clear it up, but maybe you're still feeling a little cloudy. Well, we have nootropics, things that help stimulate the synapse in your brain. So we've got peptides that do the work on these individual symptoms or byproducts of your physiology not being, that we can offer and introduce. And then we start chipping away at it until you're like, man, Jim's got me feeling good. I like it. And
So
I'm happy.
when you started, like I want to kind of step back a bit,
Yeah.
because from the business, you actually mentioned something when you started. You actually had a finance background, and you were
Yeah.
in like
Mortgage
mortgage
banking for
banking
25 years.
for a long time.
Yeah.
So was it like your close friend who was your partner for this business, like
Right.
him falling ill to prostate cancer? Was that what pivoted you completely, or what was the thing that made you complete? Because it's not like a similar industry. You completely did a 180.
Right. So I think a little bit of it was fatigue from what I was doing. And I was a little bit over the constant chasing the next deal. You know what I mean? Finding the next customer
Yeah.
needed a loan. And people, you deal with money and people's house, even if you do an amazing job, most people are like, yeah, they don't really care. They're grateful they got their property when it's all said and done, but it's not as fulfilling as helping somebody on the health side. Now, I've been an advocate on health for a long time too, but I did have 3.5 years ago, I had a serious health issue that almost killed me. And that was a big wake up call too. I had a hemorrhagic stroke and almost died. So I had an issue. I had high blood pressure that I didn't treat for an extended period of time, and I had a blood vessel in my brain pop. So I was sitting at home and didn't realize it, had a super stressful day, and I felt like someone shot me in the head. It was like, bam. So I had no idea what was going on. So I don't really get headaches. So I was just like, wow, that was intense. And I actually heard something pop. So I tried to drive myself to the hospital, and I wrecked my car. And I had my stepsister pick me up. Apparently after you have a stroke, you're not supposed to drive your car. I don't know. But
Yeah.
they take me to the hospital, and I was told the situation, and they're like, well, they did the triage. They're like, well, your blood pressure is like 200 over 150 or something crazy. It was off the charts. They're like, yeah, we got to medevac you downtown for emergency surgery right now. And I'm like, well, I got my sister with me. I was like, I really don't need a $50,000 cab ride. I appreciate the offer, but I'll just have her give me a lift. And they're like, well, if you don't get in the helicopter, you're probably going to die. Pull around the chopper. Like, let's go. So they put me in a gurney, man. I came down, and within 10 minutes of being there, I'm having brain surgery done, bro. So I had to have a drain installed in my head. So I was stuck in the hospital for 3 weeks with a drain in my head. So I had a brain bleed, basically. But the even crazier part is that I have this happen, and I wake up the first time and I pull it out. Pop. Don't remember doing it.
You pulled it out yourself?
Pulled it out myself. So the first thing I remember is I wake up handcuffed, ankles cuffed with a catheter in, and scrambled. Like if you go down for surgery, you ever been out for surgery, been put out? You
It's
wake up
like,
cloudy, you're like a little foggy.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You're a little bit off. You get anesthesia back to back, especially after brain surgery, apparently. Like I had no idea why I was there, how I got there. I was completely lost, bro. And I'm handcuffed and I'm tied to the bed, and I'm hyperventilating. So I wake up, and this nurse is like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I can't breathe. I'm trying to pull myself up. So I'm like screaming at this poor lady. I don't even know where I'm at or why I'm there. Well, this chick has an Eastern European accent, right? So I think this is like Ukraine, Russia beginnings. I think I'm being organ harvested. I thought I was kidnapped, bro. I'm not even kidding. Seriously, I thought I was in another country. So as I'm tripping out, they come up and tranquilize me, hit me with a tranq dart, put me back, put me under, or put me back down, or calm me down. And then I go to ICU, and yeah, I was in ICU for 2 weeks, man. My girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, was there for me from the time I woke up in the morning till midnight at night when they made her go home for 2 weeks straight.
This is after the 3 weeks, the original 3 weeks?
No, it's the first 2 weeks I'm in. She's there every day with me, bro. So I fell in love in the hospital. I already loved her, but I was really like, I married her, a year later. But so I came out. I had some cognitive function issues, like I had major short-term memory loss, and they call it network function, where if I was driving somewhere and someone called me after the conversation, I'm like looking like, where am I? Where am I going? Like I'd lose everything. Or if you came over and visited me in my house, I might not remember it the next day. I'm like gone.
Is that like a
So
form of dementia, or is that something
yeah,
completely?
yes, it was like dementia. Well, fast forward 6 months out of the hospital, I took on a project with a friend of mine. So we did a wellness event for the NFL Alumni Association. So I had Dick Butkus come in right before he passed, gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award with another like 5 or 6 Hall of Famers and doctors from all over the world came in. So I had a guy with a hyperbaric oxygen company came in and brought a chamber. So I ended up inheriting that chamber, and I offered it commercially for a while. And I got in that thing like daily for months. And what an amazing machine, man. Because you take in pure oxygen under pressure, it condenses the oxygen molecule and can break the blood-brain barrier and goes and heals up so much stuff. So a lot of what I know about peptides, I learned from healing myself, from having a near-death injury experience. And also, you do a lot of soul searching, bro, when you're tied down to a bed for 3 weeks in the hospital and you can't do anything. And I'm a
Yeah.
busybody, man. I get up and go. And I was stuck there with my thoughts for weeks on end. So, prayed a lot and got a lot closer to the big man upstairs. And, you just really start to reflect on what you're doing with yourself. And I was drinking on the weekends and doing bullshit. And I kind of cut all that out and cleaned up everything, and now I can be an advocate to a healthier lifestyle and help people again who are in these situations who are leading towards chronic illness or are already there on how to snap out of it, create new habits, and just learn how to, like I said, live a cleaner life and feel better for it. And that positive impact is really what I'm looking for out of this place. Is the Hippocratic Oath is to do no harm, but I like to lead people a lot better than I found them, and I think that's I think if the medical community adopted that, we'd be in a better place instead of just not hurting people. We should be trying to heal people, and that's what peptides do, man. They're traditional pharmaceuticals, just mask symptoms, and that's
Yep.
what doctors are taught. And they hope the body responds and recovers while, like, I got a cold right now, so that's why my voice sounds like this. So I'm taking, you know, antihistamines and, sucking on these throat
Lozenges,
lozenges to
like,
try to loosen it
yeah.
up, but that's not helping fight my cold. But glutathione will, which is your liver's master antioxidant, which we offer here. So I take glutathione, vitamin C, did a Myers cocktail yesterday. It's got all kinds of good stuff in there to help actually heal me. And that's the biggest difference between what we do and what other places do is I'm trying to treat the underlying condition, not just mass symptoms.
Brother, I think first thing I want to say is
It's just
thankfully
crazy.
you're still here. Thankfully, I think that was almost because now, like, obviously you getting out of that near like organ selling type of situation, like now you're here actually, contributing to saving people's lives, and you want people as well. I get where you're saying, like, from a fulfillment standpoint, because I spent years as well just doing like software sales and enterprise sales, and like you're just copping on client call after client call, and just feels like at a certain point you don't even believe in half the stuff you're saying. You're just trying to convince people that what you're saying is true. And it went against my own moral compass at a certain point. I'm like, man, like, I know this guy doesn't even need this software that I'm selling for like 50 grand, but like I gotta feed my family. So somebody's
Yep.
got to sell it, right? But no, I'm just like, I'm grateful for that, because I feel like, now you came out of that situation, and I think I told you this, but I've had a few people on these podcasts with similar type of stories. One person runs an IV clinic now. I think I briefly told you. You'll probably see an episode, like an older episode. He was told he had 10 years left to live 15 years ago, and there was no cure because he had a very rare liver disease. And I feel like that also opened his eyes up. He started drinking, partying, doing everything, because he's like, man, I got 10 years left to live. I might as well live it up. After he turned to IV medication, more natural medication, he's never seen a liver specialist ever again since then.
Right.
And now full time, like, he scaled his business to IV medication, has multiple clinics across the states. And I feel like everybody has been through, I'm not everybody, but people have been through similar types of stories that
Yeah.
kickstarted this entire thing. And you brought up something interesting. You were like, a lot of women and a lot of men too, like, they look at sometimes what we do and they're like, man, like, could it cause this, like cancer? Could it cause, like, other problems in the body? But
Sure.
realistically, like, if you look at it 10 years ago, natural medication and IV medication and like peptides, like, a lot of people didn't buy into this. Like, we were just told, like, you take ibuprofen,
Right.
acetaminophen, like, that's all you need. Those have their own side effects that people don't really think about. So now, fast forward 10 years, obviously, I'm actually seeing a lot of people, even guys now, they're getting IV shots. They're getting more natural medications because one of my really good friends, he has an autoimmune disorder and he's young, man. He's like 27 years old. And he actually was told that in Canada and the US, they don't allow a specific stem cell treatment that was going to be something that could potentially cure him. So he went through multiple rounds of steroids, different types of medications, and he was like, we play basketball a lot. So we were on the same basketball team for a few years.
Nice.
For 2 years, this guy was in the hospital and he was told he's never going to pick up a basketball again because he was getting blood transfusions, a bunch of things. And then just fast forward his story, like he told me one day, he's like, man, I can't do these medications anymore. Like it's genuinely taking the life out of you. He turned to like just cleaning up his diet naturally, a bunch of other things. He went to Mexico about a month ago for stem cell treatment. That doctor has now treated all these celebrities, Kim Kardashian, like all these like big name celebs, like they've gone for stem cell treatment there. And that doctor was actually told that he can't do that type of treatment in the States. Otherwise, they're going to have to relegate him somewhere else. Like they're going to eliminate all of his certifications. So he just ended up moving to Mexico, started his practice, and now everybody's going down there. I'm saying all this to say, like, I think a lot of people are starting to buy into what you're saying right now. Like people are starting to open their eyes up to the fact that all these Band-Aid solutions that we've been taught, it's because of capitalism, man. Like, let's just say it. Like, people getting on these medications and having to come for treatments again and again. Like, at the end of the day, cancer research, like, I think that entire thing, it's become such a big industry. Like, my dad had prostate cancer too. Realistically, like, I think we've gotten so evolved to the point that we know things that could help these people, but it'll never be publicly just on display because that's a big industry, right? I want to quickly ask you like two more questions because we're actually going a little over, but I actually really enjoyed this because you kept this super authentic. What I wanted to ask you is a little bit more business wise now for you guys. You mentioned to me before, and I think a lot of people that are not necessarily just in your industry, but earlier on in their entrepreneurial journey, it was you and your wife, and you guys started off. I think it was your wife that you mentioned created like a Facebook ad creative for you. And that's kind of what kickstarted you, like on your journey. Like you didn't even know what she was doing. You're just like, all right, yeah, we'll run something. And then it just kind of like one thing led to another. And now you're where you're at. If you had to go back to like when you first started 8 years ago, because that's where a lot of people are today, like what is the one piece of advice you've learned along the way that you would potentially change or just insert into your operations from day one that you now know?
So the first thing you have to focus on is your value proposition, right? And I think I've made this mistake in another business where I was interested in what I was doing, but I didn't have a differentiator, or my value proposition wasn't significant enough to move the needle for people. So looking back to when we started, you know, like I said, that was my first marketing campaign. Now, granted, I'm over a lot of the hurdles now. That if I'd have known how difficult this was to take on, I probably wouldn't have started it when I started it. Now that I'm 7 years in, I'm so happy that I did, that I got through it. And I'll give you an example. There are a lot of med spas who operate in my space, right? Who are offering the GLP-1s like the semaglutide or Zepatide, but they're really not doing it legally. So they don't have a medical director, or they're not licensed by the state to do it. Well, you can get away with it. It's all good till it's not. You know, until somebody complains, you hurt somebody, and then they come in and shut your entire operation down. So we took the next step to be licensed by the state of Arizona. And without being a practitioner myself, I'm not a physician, being a licensed outpatient treatment center. So we licensed the space, which legally allows us to work with doctors. So it's kind of an Arizona workaround. So I'm kind of in a unique position where I'm a businessman, and I own what's considered like, almost like a hospital. But it's not, it's just a couple small spaces. There was definitely some hurdles, but now I'm audited. We're audited annually, and if something happens, it just goes to the state, and they look at our background and say, oh, This is a one-off, whatever the case may be. Now, we haven't had any complaints. We haven't had any problems. We haven't had any injuries. The grace of God, thank you. It's there have been some challenges along the way. I had to hire 2 different consultants to write a 300-page policies and procedures manual, then do a state audit with, the Arizona Department of Health Services, which scared the crap out of me, to be honest with you, because I've taken many mortgage exams, and I know how detailed they can be, and I was just thinking to myself, I can't imagine never doing a loan or never taking a class, just trying to read a book and pass a mortgage audit. Like, I might be in trouble here. So and this would be the other advice, is make sure you're surrounded by people who know what they're doing, that you can trust, and having quality people on your team is probably more important than the vertical itself, is the people you surround yourself with. It's like if you're raising a young man, the kid with who doesn't have his dad, they don't grow up with an accountant, an attorney, all these assets that you really need to be successful in business, and don't even know that having a good attorney is super important, or having a good accountant is very important, because it's going to affect your tax base, But the biggest piece of advice I'd give to people is, it's okay to have a partner. People try to go alone. They say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go a long ways, you better have a team. So if you want to have a real business, unless you've been doing it forever and you think you can just, mule the whole process yourself, you should probably have a partner. And then finding the right partner is extremely challenging, because most people, they're not once you go into business with them, they're not the person that you thought they might be.
Yep.
Because, I just happen to, I'm in business with my best friend, and I've known him for 20 years, and we butt heads, but I know he's not going to screw me out of money. I don't have to worry about that. I know he's a good person. We both have the same ideals. We want to help people. We're here to make a buck too, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, I fully believe that if I promote the best outcomes, it's the best thing for both the patient and my business. That makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's very true, man.
So just surround yourself with good people, and don't let people tell you you can't do something, or encourage you to do something you don't want to do, and get out of your comfort zone a little bit, man. That's where the fruit is,
Nobody became it's like that saying, like nobody became like all of the most famous people that were the most successful. They weren't just working a 9 to 5. Like, they ended up becoming remembered off of doing something different, and they built something. So I think my biggest takeaway, and I learned this at a young age. Like, I remember when I got my first job, I remember being in like a corporate meeting, and this guy, like, he was telling me I need to make 100 cold calls in a day. And I was like, dude, I went through 4 years of university for this. Like, I spent like $100,000 to make cold calls. Like, I'm a telemarketer now. Like, I'm like, I don't want to do that, because you feel like you're just like, I know if when I get a cold call, I'm hanging up on somebody, I'm telling them like, block my number. So I'm like, I didn't go through my entire life to become the guy that I hated to be. So I remember being like, hey, there has to be something better out there for me. And luckily, I followed a similar journey to you. I had a partner, had to separate ways because we weren't seeing eye to eye on a lot of things. And now you're at a point where, your business is kind of running on autopilot. You don't need to be putting your hands in every single bucket.
Right.
One thing I wanted to ask you though now is, a lot of your out of state clients that you have, how are they finding you right now besides just warm network referrals? Like, how are they locating you currently? Are you still running like
It's a
Facebook
little
ads
bit
and stuff?
is opportunities like this you presented me. Someone might hear, this message might resonate really well with some people. A good friend of mine, one of my best friends, has an investment banking company, and he when we were going through the model, he's like, I think the most important thing is to get good reviews. Make sure you're out getting reviews. So I kind of started to focus on, everybody who had a good experience. The first thing I'm going to do is send them a link. Say, hey, if you had and treat people treat people like you want to be treated. If you're good to people, I think that generally speaking, they're going to be, they're, you smile at the world, the world smiles back. You're good to people, if good people, people be good to you back. Without being without being a fool,
Yeah.
because there are people who, without the best intentions, running around there too. But you keep your integrity and you keep your best foot forward, and I think it'll work out for you.
All right, man. I'm gonna wrap up with 3 rapid fire questions to you, and then we're gonna close this off. Endless vitality. Where do you want to be a year from now to make 2026 successful for you guys?
So, like I said before, we have 500 active patients. I want to get to 1,000 by the end of next year. So, we're bringing on 25 to 50 new patients a month. I'd like to hit 100. Would be ideal. Have 100 new patients a month.
Now, if you, as a business owner, had like the ability to just change one thing in that process, what would it be for you?
And what type of process?
Like just in terms of overall, like your business, it could be like how your business is portrayed in the public. Like if people see you as like a men's only clinic, for example, is that something
Right.
you want to change? Or if it's like how you're getting more clients, like patient acquisition, like what's the
I
one
think
thing you would
it's
want to change?
it's awareness to the fact that you don't have to rely on traditional medications to be healthy, and it's all about my impact. you know I want to change people, so if I can change your life and you got somewhere that you wouldn't have been, and I tell people this all the time, if I can keep you above the dirt for one extra second, man, that's so precious. you know you get an extra day because you met me, maybe an extra year, man, that's just something, because that just ferrets out to so many different people. Like if you were going down the wrong path, and there's a part in the Bible says, if you correct one sin from somebody, that it saves them 100. If I can get you on path, then that might lead to you telling the next guy, hey, you know what? Maybe you should hit the sauna 3 days a week, because it leaves you 50% less likely to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
You know, so just my reach.
I think a
And
lot of, lot,
I like the government to be a little bit more open to the peptide market, because a lot of them are stuck in this gray zone, because they're naturally occurring. You can't really patent it, and if you can't patent it, then companies don't get behind it for the clinical trials. A
yeah,
lot of them been out there for so long, and they do such good work.
a lot of people in your space that I've asked this exact question to, they literally answer the same way, just so you know. They always
Really.
would say, they always would say education, like educating people on the efficacy of these types of treatments. And I think that's the biggest hurdle right now. But I'm gonna be honest, 5 to 10 years from now, I think that's gonna continue to change for a lot of
Right.
people. They're gonna continue to open
Yep.
their eyes on it. Last thing I wanted to ask you, Jim, what's next for you personally, like as a leader? Like how do you see yourself evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? You see yourself doing the same thing as today, or what do you want to be
No,
doing?
I'm looking for an exit in 5 to 10 years, and then we'll just focus on giving back to the community. Like, I came from a town of 6,000 people. I go back every summer, and I just see these little sprouts running around, and they can't see further than 3 miles down the street. Man, they've never been exposed to anything. So I'm gonna go back, and I'm gonna buy a little spot there and come back for a couple months out of the year and educate them on, again, living a little bit better, and being able to see past their backyard, because you grow up in it's a town of 6,000 people, bro. You only exposed to so many people and so many ideas, and a lot of naysayers. And if you don't have a little bit of an adventurous spirit, it's hard to, if everything is within a 10-mile radius. It's one kid's dying to leave, and another kid just thinks that this is all there is. They don't even know that there's something else out there. All they see is
Yeah.
what they see on TV. So, just bring more awareness, again, education, and try to have the best impact I can on the world before I go.
This is amazing, man. Like, I think just from a conversation standpoint, we talk business, we talk real life. I love hearing authentic stories. So that's why when you started with your journey, it touches a lot of people hearing that firsthand. Like a lot of people see a business owner, they're like, oh, that's a rich, excuse my language, like, oh, that's a
Right?
rich
Yeah,
white guy that
rich
like,
white guy.
he just kind of
Man,
like,
my mom
he just
made
kind of
10
like,
grand my
he had
senior
it
year of high
handed
school,
to him,
bro.
probably from his dad, like it passed
Yeah.
it down. So when you hear these stories, like, No, this
Yeah,
guy had to work his ass off to get to where he's at and like deal with real things to, get to
yeah,
that
bro.
point. So I just want to say to wrap up, man, like where's the best place for people to kind of follow your journey, follow your work? Like, do you have a website, LinkedIn, social
Yes,
media, Instagram?
endlessvitality.com, or you can give me a call at 602-636-5000. I answer most of our phone calls. I try to. You know, everyone's got my cell phone. All my patients can get a hold of me, so I try to make myself available. And I know that sometimes that spreads me pretty thin, but I've just made a point to try to have a personal relationship with the people that I do business with in this clinic to promote those outcomes we're looking for, man. And it just makes me feel good as a person, and whatever I can do for people, I try to do it, including
Yeah,
yourself,
man.
brother. Let me know if I can ever help you. Okay.
100%, man. Honestly, this is super valuable. Even for me, earlier on in my career journey too, just hearing it firsthand from someone. So hopefully the audience gets a lot of value from this as well. Jim, it's been an absolute pleasure, man. Like appreciate you taking some time today.
Yes,
And
sir.
hopefully again in
Enjoyed
the
it.
future we'll have you on again.
Yeah, let me know if you want me to come back, man. We can do it again. You can always run it back. I'm a hooper too, so you know,
We'll talk
I'm always down to run one back.
we'll talk some ball, but maybe you're in Arizona, so you're probably a Suns fan.
I grew up a Lakers fan, and then there was just a minute there where it just didn't they just didn't do it for me anymore. So I moved out here. I became a Suns fan.
Yeah.
Football, go Steelers, go Hoosiers. Go
All right,
Hoosiers.
brother. It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. Talk again.